All right, everybody, welcome back for another deep dive with me. Today, we're going to be looking at something kind of cool, I think. We're going to be talking about how to boost your English skills using English podcast conversations.
That sounds interesting.
Yeah. So we found some really cool material on this.
Okay.
And I'm really curious to see what we can pull out of this for you guys.
Yeah, I think what's really fascinating here is we're not just talking about listening to podcasts.
Right.
We're talking about really using them as a tool to accelerate your language learning.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, the thing that really caught my eye was this idea of boosting skills. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, who doesn't want to learn faster and better?
Right.
But how does simply listening to conversations do that?
Well, you're not just listening passively to vocabulary lists.
Right.
You're really tuning your ear to the rhythm and flow of natural English, the way it's actually used in everyday conversation.
All right.
And that's what helps you speak more confidently and fluently. And the beauty of conversational podcasts is that they're engaging, you know? It doesn't feel like studying.
Right.
You're just enjoying interesting content while your brain is kind of subtly picking up on language patterns and nuances.
So, okay, so there are a lot of podcasts out there.
Yeah.
How do we choose the right ones to actually make this happen?
That's a good question.
Yeah. Is it all about transcripts, or are certain styles of podcasts better for this, or what?
I mean, transcripts can definitely be helpful.
Sure.
But don't limit yourself to just those.
Okay.
I think you should think about topics that you're genuinely interested in.
Okay.
So maybe it's science, maybe it's history,
Yeah.
maybe it's comedy, or even true crime,
Yeah.
you know, whatever you're interested in.
Sure.
And when you're hooked on the content,
Yes.
you're naturally going to pay more attention to the language.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So, our source material mentioned this idea of active listening
Yes.
as a key strategy. And to be honest, sometimes I just zone out when I'm listening to a podcast.
Sure.
How can we make sure that we're truly engaged?
Yeah. Well, I think that's where note-taking comes in.
Okay.
And don't just write down a new word.
Yeah.
Write down the whole sentence that you hear it in.
Okay.
That's going to give you the context and help
Whatever.
you understand how to actually use it.
Okay.
You can also jot down interesting points that the hosts are making,
Mm-hmm.
or questions that pop into your head,
Okay.
or even things that you want to research further.
Makes a lot of sense, but I mean, wouldn't we end up just writing down everything?
Well, yeah.
How do we focus on the most useful stuff?
Yeah. So start by focusing on phrases or expressions
Okay.
that sound natural and useful in everyday conversations.
Yeah.
The kind of things that you could imagine yourself saying.
Okay.
And don't be afraid to pause the podcast.
Right.
To really dissect a sentence or look up a word.
Yeah.
The more you interact with the language, the deeper it sinks in.
Okay, cool. So there's this other thing that the source material mentioned, which was shadowing.
Uh-huh.
And I've got to admit, I've never really tried it. So I'm curious, what exactly is shadowing?
Yeah.
And how does that help us?
Have you ever tried mimicking someone's voice or accent for fun?
Oh, yeah, sure.
So it's kind of similar to that, but with a purpose.
Yep.
So imagine you're mimicking the podcast host, almost like you're their echo.
Right.
So you listen closely
Yeah.
and then try to repeat what they're saying,
Okay.
matching their tone and pace.
Okay.
So this helps not only with your pronunciation,
Uh-huh.
but also trains your mouth muscles to form those English sounds more naturally.
Okay, I tried shadowing once,
Yeah.
and my cat looked at me like I was losing it.
Uh-huh.
But I can see how that could be really, really helpful.
Yeah.
So we've got active listening, we've got note-taking, we've got shadowing.
Right.
Are there any other tips that we can use to really get the most learning out of these podcast conversations?
Absolutely. So if a podcast offers transcripts, take advantage of them. So read along as you listen,
Okay.
pausing to look up unfamiliar words
Yeah.
or analyze sentence structures.
Okay.
It's like having a cheat sheet to the language.
I like that.
And remember, consistency is key.
Right.
Even dedicating a few minutes each day to listening and practicing can make a world of difference.
That's so true.
Yeah.
So what I'm hearing is that it's not just about passively listening to podcasts.
Right.
It's about actively engaging with the language
Exactly.
and making it your own.
Yeah, and the more you enjoy the process, the more you'll stick with it.
Exactly. So listeners, here's something to think about.
Okay.
What English language podcasts pique your interest?
Hmm.
What topics make you want to lean in and listen? Start there and see how you can integrate them into your daily routine.
Right.
Maybe it's during your commute, while you're cooking, or even during a walk.
Yeah.
You might be surprised how much progress you can make simply by immersing yourself in conversations that you genuinely enjoy.
That's a great point.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thanks for joining me for another deep dive, and we'll see you next time.
See ya.